Aaron, Steven, Nicolas, and Diego, thank you so much for being here. I know each of you, I have worked with you, and I am very proud to call you my friends today. And I am super happy to have you here in our last episode of 2023 for the Future of the Future podcast to talk about some of the trends in technology in 2023 and some of the things that you have seen as experts in each of your fields. Um, but for the benefit of the audience, what I would like is to get started and talk about what is your role today, what do you do, and how did you get there, right? So we're going to take turns. We're going to get started with Aaron, then we're going to follow up with Steven, then Nicolas, and then Diego, and then we're going to move on to the next question. But Aaron, your turn. What is your role today? What do you do? And how did you get there?
Thanks, Mateo. Hey, guys. Well, I'm Aaron. I'm from Ecuador, and at Xseed, I'm the lead product designer. Primarily, I am focused on assisting our clients and teams in delivering optimal user experience through their products. My role involves conducting meetings, analyzing data, and collaborating with other designers and engineers. For instance, I recently supported a fellow designer who was conducting in-depth interview with lawyers. Yeah, and we scheduled a meeting, and I provided guidance and team to enhance the process with, obviously, with the tips that I have from my 7 years of experience in the field. How did I get there? So I will try to put this in a nutshell because it's a long story. I initially studied economics in college many years ago, where my econometrics teacher, Ernesto, introduced me to behavioral economics and behavioral science, which is a young field. And grateful for his guidance, this exposure led me to delve into these subjects and its process, and I discovered the fascinating realm of user experience. Yeah, just as a fact, when the term user experience was born, there was an economist involved in that process. Yeah, and driven by my creativity, I also studied programming and designing. I have many years without programming, so probably I'm very outdated with everything in the programming field. And aiming to merge my analytical skills and my creative skills over these years, I cultivated my expertise in the tech industry, working for startups in Latin America, such as Platzi Inc. And gradually, I evolved into my current role as a UX and a product designer. And now I have, I don't know, more than 3 years, yeah, working with you, Mateo, and with our US clients. So that's me in a nutshell. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron, our UX lead. It's been a wild ride, but a ride that I think we're all enjoying very much. So thank you, Aaron. Steven, over to you.
Okay, so well, first of all, thank you, Mateo, and thank you guys, for inviting me to this podcast. So I'm Steven. I'm currently leading a team, specializing about React Native and mobile app development at Blue Label Labs, which is one of our clients here in Xseed. Well, in fact, we are currently working on different multidisciplinary, products. And, well, talking about, my experience, well, I think my journey in this field began about 7 years ago, starting as a software developer, well, junior software developer. One of the, funny facts about me is that I didn't start as a software developer itself. I started to develop my curiosity in the tech field, playing with some hardware devices and, programming in Arduino. And also, well, from that is when I started to, being fascinated by the power of mobile technologies and also by the power of software development and, how apps and software itself could transform everyday experiences. So one of the other things that I also started to be, I would say how I started to be interested in this technology field is because I started to work with some of my friends to build some products, some products that we were expecting to develop then as MVPs, and then started to building those products and validate different kind of softwares in the market to find some product market fit. That's why I also have some some entrepreneur DNA, because I also love to build products to solve different kind of problems in the society. So I started to build some products like social media creativity, and I also build and had the opportunity to work with definitely amazing people to build one of the I would say one of the most interesting products to well, in the gastronomy work, to build community, and at the same time you can cook and eat delicious with different kind of people around your town or even in your country. So I had the opportunity to be co-founder of that startup, and also the chief technology officer, leading basically the technology strategy, but also with a little bit or some focus on the sales world as well. As you already know, I think I need to be, I see myself not only as a lead or technical lead, because we also need to understand that some of the, technical roles need some soft skills, especially in sales or when you're going to, talk with a client. So definitely I have had the opportunity to also develop that kind of, skills. And yeah, I think that's it.
I absolutely love it. And I think you should consider, if not already, naming your LinkedIn a mobile tech lead with an entrepreneur DNA. When you said that, I just love that phrase.
Yeah, definitely. You're totally right.
Very good. So we're starting to see the trend here. It's a nice squad. We have UX, we have mobile and front end, and let's continue moving on. And Nicolas, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
Hi guys, very happy to be here. Such an amazing team. I'm as well honored to call you my friends. Also, we have had some good times together, especially the last end of the year party. So what about me? Nicolas, I'm 30 years old, based Uruguay, lead full stack engineer. It's gonna be 9 years next year. I've been working since I was 21. And it's kind of funny how it all started. I actually started studying design, multimedia design to be more specific. And as one of my teachers, my professors down in college used to say, during those early days in my life, my 20s, I used to live my life a lot. So I had to start working even before I wanted to, because I was, living the life a lot. So my mother picked up on that and say, hey, why don't you get some little night work? And well, that's how I bumped into software development. In my career, I actually had some courses on that. So I already knew JavaScript and HTML. And from the first day that I had to validate forms, I still remember up to this day, my very first task was actually validating a form. And since then, it became so easily that I had to jump back into the engineer career. So it's been a lot of time since then. And since the last couple of years with Xseed, I've been mainly focused in designing and implementing large backends, as well as cloud-based solutions. I mean, everything's a cloud-based solution, but more specific serverless computing, like, for example, the Azure Functions or AWS. This last year has been mainly with Azure. I'm very happy for that. The transition was very well as well. And everything has been mainly in C# and TypeScript all my life. So that's my area of expertise.
Very good. I love it. It makes me want to feel like getting your mama on a podcast and asking her about that moment when she said, like, you're living your life too much, get a job.
She's tough, man. She's tough.
Very, very nice story. Thank you, Nicolas. And last but not least, Diego, can you tell us about yourself? What do you do and how did you get there?
Hey guys, thanks Mateo. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Diego. I'm 27 years old. I've been working as a QA for 7 years now. I consider myself a QA automation engineer. I mainly develop UI and API and also performance automated tests. I currently use the Playwright framework, mostly for API and UI automation. It's kind of a trend since last year. I also do the maintenance on CI/CD pipelines, everything related to the testing suite. I maintain it. I design the strategy on how we're going to progress. And how did I get here? This is a question I really like to ask when I interview people, because from my experience, nobody being 9, 10 years old dreamed about becoming a QA engineer. Everyone that comes to this side of things, it's kind of an accident. And mine is not the exception. 7 years ago, I didn't know what to do with my life. I was studying for a bachelor in business administration. I really didn't like it, but I had to do something. And I met this guy, total stranger. Nowadays, he's one of my closest friends. He started bugging me about like QA. This is the wave that's going on in the tech world. I didn't know. I didn't care about computers other than playing PlayStation when I was younger. So I don't know why, but I listened to him and what he had to say, and I started doing my own research. And yeah, as I said, I didn't want to do anything of my life, so this was kind of really surprising and really challenging. And I enrolled in a course here. I don't know how I ended the course. I don't know how I landed my first job as a manual QA. Pretty simple stuff, testing APIs, doing some database validations. And then I decided to take a little step further, learn how to code. So the industry standard at that moment still is, but every day it passes a little bit less. I learned Java, and Selenium was the standard for the industry. Everything was built on top of that. And I spent more than 4 years working on that, mostly UI and API automation. I didn't have experience in performance testing up to 3 years ago, I think it was. A new world. I discovered something more challenging even. Even you get to play with infrastructure, learn a lot of things. And a couple of years ago, actually when I joined Xseed, I decided that I wanted to switch from Java to JavaScript, and I went all for it. I learned not too much, but I can do a couple of things. And yeah, now I develop testing in JavaScript using Playwright, as I mentioned before, following the trend that automated tests should be written in the same language that the code is written, so it's easier for everyone to be involved. Yeah, I currently lead a team, like to teach people, to learn from everyone. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Very nice. A QA automation lead that used to spend more time playing PlayStation and not care about computers, but by accident found a passion and became an amazing QA lead that is now making our clients very happy. So it's a nice story. Very good. So we have a little bit of everything. We have UX, we have front end and mobile, we have backend and architecture, and we have QA, right? Many things happen in 2023, some elephants in the room, of course, with AI and other stuff. But in your area of expertise, this is the next question for each of you. I'm going to get started with Aaron again. In your area of expertise, what are the biggest trends you saw in 2023, and what do you think it's coming for next year?
I would say I have 4 in my radar. The first one, I would say it's specialization requirements. This is for the field of UX and products in general. I would say the first one is specialization requirements. I have seen lots of new open roles that now require more specific UX knowledge than years before. So now I have seen way more open roles for researchers, for information architecture, for people that only do the UX, the interaction design, yeah, and also for the UI. So that means that more specialization is being required in the market instead of people that just does everything. Yeah, and that's awesome to me because we need to understand that design is not only pushing pixels, but way more. Design is analyzing numbers, it's leading workshops, it's working with engineers, especially now with this trend of the design system, which is everything connected to UI. Yeah, well, I think that that's the first thing that I have seen in the market, and I'm very happy about that. The second one I would say is AI knowledge, which is important independently in the area you work right now. Yeah, you know, if you're a UI or visual designer, companies are expecting you to know how to use some AIs like Galileo, Bing, or Midjourney. If you're a product person, know how to use the AI to analyze data faster. If you're a researcher, how to analyze faster the content from the in-depth interview, for example. Yeah, as a third one, and this is one that is very interesting, is design ops. Yeah, I would not say that this is a trend itself, but I will include it in this list because of the relevance it has this 2023. Design ops is kind of a framework where all systems fit and where they can all interact to mutate, change the plans, and evolve towards an end. I highly recommend to take some minutes to read about it. I'm sure that some organizations will grow a lot if they implement design ops inside their product teams. And the last one, and this is for the UI people, it's morphic design. We are seeing less flat-only design in some products, and now we have new UIs that have implemented morphic designs in their UIs. So for you to have a references, if we remember the first iPhone, the design of the icon, that's something like a morphic design. The right name is skeuomorphic design for that trend in that moment where the first iPhone landed to the market. But now we are seeing something similar. To give you two examples, we have Shopify and Airbnb. You can go to see their design systems. Yeah, and you will know that now the buttons are all the elements from the design system as different shadows, gradients, more morphic design. So I would say that that's the 4 trends I have seen in this 2020.
Very good. And do you think those will continue towards next year, or what are you expecting for next year? A continuation of that or different things?
Yeah, especially with the, well, I think all of them will go on the next year. AI knowledge will be a basic requirement. Yeah, this year I think it was a plus to know about AI, but I think that for 2024 it will be a basic requirement. So probably in the interviews, if you are a UX or product person, someone will ask you, hey, and how do you use AI to make your life easier as a UX, as a UI, as a product design person, etc. And morphic design, I think that this will be a trend that will maintain probably the next years as flat design did.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Aaron. Steven, how about you? In your area of expertise, what were the biggest trends you saw in 2023, and what do you think it's coming for next year?
Well, one thing that I've started to see as an evolution in the mobile development related with the AI, trend, I think it's related to the experience and how customers are using this kind of mobile products. One clear example of this is the ChatGPT mobile application. Well, basically I see this, or I usually use this as the main example of the evolution in UX and development and the relationship between those, because as you see, and you can use the ChatGPT application for iOS, you don't see many buttons. You only see what you want to see. Basically, you see an input where you can chat with ChatGPT, and the other option where you can, talk with ChatGPT and, use some voice comments. So one of the trends that I started to, I have started to see as interesting is that it looks like 2024 will be the year where users will have the clearest, or perhaps a starting point, to simplify user experience in the mobile applications. You won't see, or you you will start to see less buttons on your interface, and with the hype of the large language models, we will be able as developers to use this kind of tools, to allow the user control applications through voice recognition, and even with conversational AI tools into the applications. So I think that this is one of my, this is my point of view about, of how we are going to transform the way as we develop products, mobile products. But also I anticipate a greater focus on augmented reality, especially because companies like Apple and Meta, of course, have been rising and launching a lot of different kind of technologies and frameworks and tools to develop augmented reality in mobile applications as well. So I see this as well as another, point of consideration of the evolution of some mobile applications, and of course further advancements in cross-platform development, because currently we have some competitors about React Native. We also have other frameworks like Flutter, like Ionic. So it looks like despite we have or we still have native technologies like Swift or Kotlin for specific development platforms, we are starting to see like new progress and updates in the cross-platform development, enhancing the user experience across various devices, not only mobile phones like with Android or iOS, but also iPads and also tablets for in the case of Android, smart watches, and even TVs, where you can basically with just one framework develop for all kind of platforms. So I see I see a lot of improvements here in the community, and also especially in React Native, where the community is pretty strong. I'm anticipating some of the most important advances in this area of the closed platform development. So I would say that those are my 3 points of evolution for 2024 that we started to see in 2023, but definitely this will be a biggest hype for next year.
Very, very interesting. And I love what you said about things getting simpler for the user, less buttons, just more conversation, right? That seems to be a trend everywhere. I agree, and also from a standpoint of a user, something that I can imagine and see as well. Nicolas, on your area of expertise, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so let me confess and start by saying that I have never written so many unit tests like this past year. And I say written, like quote unquote, because ChatGPT has been the one writing those tests, and it has been a blast. Going on that, in my specific niche, talking about .NET, a month ago has been the release of .NET 8, the latest long-term stable version. And it has some cool features as well as, for example, introducing the ability to integrate large language models like these of an OpenAI directly into your .NET application. So Microsoft keeps still betting on that. But I want to drive into something that has really taken us by aback this year, which is the Blazor stack from Microsoft, which has proven to be chef kiss, some absolutely great tools to develop faster, to shorten times of go-to-market. And it's really something that's not going away. Like we've seen other languages or frameworks from Microsoft, thinking about Silverlight, that they promised to be the future, but like 2-3 years after, they just remove all support, and now it's a dead language. That's not going to happen with Blazor, and there are very serious reasons why that's not happening. First, Blazor is an extension of Razor Pages, which have been around .NET since the beginning of times. It's a combination of HTML with C#. that enables server-side rendering. But now what Blazor does is extends that into the ability of writing components. So it's a component-driven library framework that allows C# developers to write code in C# to be executed on the client side as well. So that C# code gets translated into JavaScript. And yeah, so I said that as it was something very simple, but it's all the great power it has. And we are going to see that a lot. I see that some of the lectures I used to have in university have now changed, have now switched from, for example, they used to use Java Swing, that is a very old library for Java for writing UIs, and they are switching to that. And it's also very notable in the enterprise corporate software, mainly because it will be enable backend developers to write UI code, to write less amount of validation code. So for example, in the opposite scenario where you would write, for example, a UI to a dashboard for your boss to fill in some things, you had to do it the traditional way, let's say traditional way as in single page application way, which is the most modern way now. You have to write a lot of validation, a lot of middleware software where you have to validate the things you're sending through the API to the backend, validating it once again in the backend to just have the data you need. But now, by having this single piece of software, you don't really need to revalidate some of the things C# already does for you. So it's very fast in that way. Let's say that it's a unified web development, allowing developers to write this server side and client side. The other model that it has that is also very important, and the other reason it's not going away, is the WebAssembly version of Blazor that runs entirely in the client. And now that's exactly like single page application runs. Every view code, React, Angular is that way. But now again, it's entirely written in C# in .NET. So that's awesome, and it will fasten some of the process that are around. I'd say that some of the cons that has, for example, the Blazor server mode, sorry, are the costs. So its underlying technology, it's mainly a WebSocket that it's open. So you enter the web page to the server you're requesting, and a WebSocket is open, which means there's constant communication between your browser and the server, which directly translates to costs. So I think that if you are, once again, next year, if you are in the corporate enterprise software, you're gonna see that, you start hearing that a lot, because, well, first, Microsoft has quite a story of being enterprise software like Java or other kind of languages. But yeah, people are betting on this a lot. Universities are betting on this a lot, and it's also a nice opportunity for people who comes from the front end and are used to doing, for example, only React or Vue projects. Is gonna be extremely familiar working in a component-driven framework like Blazor is. Of course, there's some few difference between the logic between running something entirely on the server or entirely in the client, but yeah, it's something that is not going away at all.
Very good, Nicolas. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Diego, on the QA side, what have you seen in 2023 and what do you think is coming?
Okay, so the first one I'm going to mention is not exactly from 2023. It's just a trend that has been growing and getting stronger and stronger every year. And that will be shift left testing. That's basically considering testing activities as soon as the development process starts. That comes with a change in the QA title from QA, that would mean quality assurance, to QE. That would be a quality engineer. And the reason behind that is because the testing teams, we are not an insurance company. Like, we don't put a sticker on the software before it goes to production and say, okay, this is going to work fine. When we provide the QA sign-off, I'm not that fond of that wording, but that's how we call it. We are actually saying, okay, so we couldn't find any high risks in the system. It's good to go, there's nothing that's going to break like really hard, but we cannot ensure anything because the bugs you don't find, it's not because they are not there, you just haven't found them. But we say, okay, this is good to go, and the final user is going to enjoy what we are delivering and take a lot of value from it. And that makes sense because we as QAs are kind of in the middle between the development team and the final user, because we play around with the system all day. We actually don't create software, we just test it. So we can think about how non-technical users are going to use what we are creating. And that's not a point of view that everyone can have, because if we work on that every single day, every hour of our days, we know how it works. So involving testers as soon as possible is not going to benefit the development team. It's also going to benefit the stakeholders because it's way cheaper to fix a bug. The sooner you spot it, it's cheaper than if it goes to production. Another trend that might be from 2023, something that it's also growing and it's going to be more present in 2024. It's something pretty similar as what Aaron mentioned. It would be QA ops. Ops seems to be getting in the middle of everything, and it's a pretty interesting approach. It combines the QA role with the DevOps. It's especially DevOps that still is going to be around, and also manual QA. The idea behind this is to integrate the QA activities into the CI/CD pipeline. So we are continuously testing code, every pull request, every deploy, whatever. You're going to at least have instant feedback about what you have merged. So the concept behind this would be test early and test often, as much as you can test. And feedback is really key here, because what happens on the QA side of things is that sometimes we are kind of in the shadows, because as I said before, we do not create software. So providing feedback to stakeholders and the dev team and the product team all the time, constantly, okay, we are seeing like a risk area here. This is working fine. It has been working fine for the last month. We didn't have any failed tests. So we know the health of the software. And QA ops will be exactly that, like all the time knowing what's going on, how to improve, where we should focus our skills. Yeah, it's every year is growing and growing, and it's making the QA role more technical. So it's pretty interesting, and I only see it growing for the next years. And the last one, it's something that I already mentioned when I introduced myself, will be Playwright. What's Playwright? It's an open source automation library created by Microsoft. And it has been around for less than 4 years. So considering everything is pretty new, comparing to Cypress or Selenium that are the industry standards. And why this tool appeared and why such a big company started investing time in testing? Basically because Cypress and Selenium were very good, but they couldn't cover everything. Like the ideal framework would be a mix of both. So this is where Playwright comes to play. You can do API automation, UI automation. You can also do performance testing with some other integrations, but you can do it. You can do visual testing, accessibility testing. That's something that gets really important over the years because we want everyone to be able to use our software. And that's out of the box. It's just plug and play. I call it like a Cypress on steroids because they took the best things from Cypress. It's also a WebSocket. It's extremely fast. If we compare it to Selenium, it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy fast. So you get a pretty UI. You get to record and play the tests after you adapt them. But you get a lot of features every month. Like they do big releases every month, and they are like really cool releases. They add good features. They listen to what people ask them to integrate in the library, So it's pretty cool. You get to learn all the time. You can have all kind of automated testing into one framework. That's something that has been happening since Playwright has been around, because a couple of years ago, you should be able to code in different languages. And we as QAs are not that technical people. So having the ability to learn one framework and how to use it properly, but just one framework, it's only going to grow in the testing teams.
Very powerful, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Diego. Okay, last question for everyone. If someone is listening and is getting excited, it's listening to each of you and getting excited about each of your area of expertise and wants to get started or wants to grow, right? Either in UX or in mobile or in .NET or in QA, right? What would be your advice to them? And I want to get started again, same order with Aaron. What would be your advice for someone that is saying, hey, I want to get started in UX or grow in the UX field?
Ooh, that's interesting. Please don't hate me after my response to this question. Yeah, just listen to everything that I will say. For people that want to grow in this field, it's don't forget the numbers, don't forget the users, and the hard truth. Knowing how to use Figma doesn't make you a great designer. Sorry for that, but someone has to tell the hard truth in this industry. And also, don't forget to use AI to make your life easier. This is not just, hey, I don't know, I'm using AI and I'm a great designer. No, you have to create solutions for your workflow with the AI. For example, you need to create color palettes, and you need to put them in a specific format in, I don't know, in JSON, so you can use ChatGPT. So this is my color palette, so please create a JSON with this, and I can import in Figma via a plugin, and then I have everything, and I have better collaboration with engineering. And that would be another advice for the people that is growing. Learn the programming basics. This doesn't mean that you have to code. This means that you need to talk the same language with the engineers, because your work doesn't end when you have delivered the handoff. So that's your responsibility as a designer. And as always, for people that is growing, I would like to recommend some books and blogs that will help you with your career. And the first thing I always recommend is all the strategizer content, because as a UX designer, a product designer, you need to have context about the organization, and you need to understand the business models, and you need to understand how the company is having contact with the user, and also how the company is making money with that users. Okay, and if you are in your early days of your careers, I would recommend UX strategy. Influence from Robert Cialdini. This is not exactly a book about UX. This is more like behavioral science and behavioral economics, but it will give you a big plus in your profile if you read this book, and you will learn a lot about us humans. Articulating design decisions, because you need to know how to justify all the decisions that you have taken when designing. Measuring the user experience. I will give you a spoiler for this. This book was written by two persons with PhDs, Ben Albert and Tom Tullis. So this is a long book, and it will be a book kind of hard to read. So if you are in your early days of your UX career, please don't read this book until you are something like a mid or a senior designer. Yeah, this is a lot of numbers, and this is a lot of Excel. And it is another spoiler for your career. You will use Excel at the end, at some point, probably PowerPoint. Another one that is one of my favorites, it's designing for how people think. Yeah, it involves kind of a new framework for research. I love it. It's called the 6 Minds model. It's kind of a young framework for doing research, so I would highly recommend for this one. And for the people who want to get into this field, I would like to give another spoiler that not everything will involve Figma in your career. If you want to always be just a basic designer, you will just learn Figma. But the truth about this is that if you want to call yourself, I'm a UX designer, this means that you have some senior knowledge about this, because senior people knows about the company, knows about business models, knows about money, knows about numbers, knows about designing and everything. This doesn't mean that you have to do everything, because as I said before, we have some specializations. You can be an interaction designer, you can just be a UA designer. Yeah, but if you want to call yourself, I'm a UX designer, because this means that you can move in different fields inside your, inside your company. Yeah, and last but not least, if you have the opportunity to become a design leader, please be one. We have a lack of leadership inside, well, in the market, in the design market, we have a lack of this. Adrian Solga has, oh, sorry, I don't remember this. I don't. Yeah, yeah, Adrian Solga has an article in Medium about this. We need more leaders in design, and especially if you want to be a great UX designer or a product designer, you need to know about leadership, because you will lead some workshops and you will create some bridge, yeah, between different squads in your company. Not everything is a product team. Sometimes you will need to go and talk with the sales teams, with the customer support team, with some C-levels, and obviously with engineers. So you need to know how to create these bridges, and this is easy when you know about leadership and communication. That's everything from my side, and those are my advices.
Thank you, Aaron. That was a very thorough answer. And if you're listening, take the time to go back, replay it. There were a lot of books, there were a lot of different things recommended there. The good thing about this podcast is that you can pause the conversation here, go back, listen to it again. That's my recommendation. Going next with Steven, what's your recommendation for someone that wants to get into your field or advance in your field?
Yeah, definitely. There's one thing that Aaron said about this industry that also I strongly recommend, because we do need more developers and we do need more leads. But not only developers or leads, we need super developers and super leads. And developing these kind of skills are composed by different skills, from technical skills. So I strongly recommend to start improving your technical fundamentals. Like there is one thing that we usually talk in the in this community and this industry, and is that the language, the programming language, doesn't matter if you have the logic and you have a strong logic developed. When you develop a strong logic and you also start to open your mind to different kind of challenges, and you're able to solve them, then put down on a, for example, in a JavaScript language or Java or whatever you think is the easiest part. So definitely improve your technical fundamentals, and also start improving your user experience, because definitely we don't need we definitely need to keep in mind that we are building products for users, and as we are building products for users, we definitely need to build high quality products. And also, don't be afraid about your I would say that you shouldn't be afraid about building your own products. Don't be afraid to experiment and build projects from ideas that you can potentially have. I think it's one of the best ways to learn and grow as a developer. And also start developing your soft skills, start talking with more with people, and start building your own community, because in the leadership area, you need to inspire other people. Overall in this kind of industries where we see it, because it only happened to me that we see leadership as the technical leader that only reviews my code and start pushing me to deliver what I need to do in my sprint, I would say that you need to develop soft skills because you are trading with different kind of developers, and you need to keep your team together. And this is not only, or you can do that with technical skills. So definitely I would recommend this as well. And yep, that's pretty much.
I appreciate it. That was a powerful message. Nico, what do you think on your side?
Yeah, so continuing the line what Steven was saying, that it's very much spot on. I mean, we kind of circled the way back around the wheel. We starting to see that some of the best engineers you can come across are not that, that old paradigm of engineer with their hoodie in a dark room. Some of the best folks in the industry I met are people's person, are people that are relatable, that you can talk to. People that make their team work better than, as Steven said, they inspire their teammates and make them do better stuff. So my advice is gonna go not to the most seniors or semi-seniors, more for the people that are entering the field, and something that's been around, everyone knows, the job market's tough. Well, nowadays it's very tough. It's never been so high, the entry barrier. There's a lot of competitions between developers for positions, and that's something that's a phenomenon that's happening worldwide. Information, it's, at the tip of your fingers. You can actually get everything you need to be from zero to hero in any field. But I don't want to sound like my father, but two key concepts: be patient and be curious. Those two things are gonna get you much further in your way that getting savvy at one technology from one day to another. There's so much around that you can pick on, and if you are you're just starting, you might think that, wow, all these shiny things, this technology, what should I pick? What should I choose? What's gonna give me money? Because everyone needs to work. And it's not bad to see what's going on in the market, to pick up something. It's something, it's honest, and it's okay. But the core language is the things that have been around for 20 or more, 13 years. They are still being used by the top companies in San Francisco and around the world to build reliable software. So don't spend so much time picking up the latest JavaScript framework. Go back to basic, get into Java, C#, a very strong type language. ChatGPT is your best friend. No more but back are the days where we used to spend hours to find some dark solution in Stack Overflow for a very particular error. And now you can have that solved in like 10 seconds with ChatGPT. So be curious, ask ChatGPT everything, but be patient as well. Your skills are like a garden. So start gardening your garden, watering your gardening, sorry, and you'll have a very nice forest by the end of the year. So good luck to everyone in that sense.
I love it. Thank you, Nicolas. Diego, what are your thoughts on your side?
Okay, so in the last 6 to 7 years, the QA role has been evolving. It has passed from just manual QA. Maybe 5, 6 years ago, you could land a job and you will be fine just by doing manual QA. And QAs used to see programming as something really hard and just a developer task. But my first advice would be to learn a programming language. As I said before, maybe a couple of years ago, this wasn't a requirement, but now it is. Junior positions are getting harder and harder to land. It's very difficult. I'm not saying that's not the case anymore, where you can just be a manual QA, but learning how to code, at least how to apply some logic, is going to just improve your career, the way you test systems, the way you think failures can occur. So definitely go for JavaScript or Java, even Python. It depends on what you want to do. but just learn one and go deep. Then the transition to another one is pretty easy. But I think it's a requirement in 2023, and it's going to be even a harder requirement in the future. Other than that, learn one automation framework. It doesn't matter which one, but learn all its quirks, what it does best, what it does worst. Know everything, every corner, every inch of the system. And then you're going to, if you want to transition to a new one, to an old one, whatever you want to develop your own automation framework, that would be cool. If someone listening to this podcast does it, just let me know, and I'll check it out. But let's go for Playwright, Cypress. Any of those could be fine. They are the ones that are trending right now. But yeah, go for it. Don't be scared. I put it on my third in my list, but don't be scared to ask questions, because we as QAs we are less technical people than the developers, and we are kind of afraid of asking things that we really don't know. And it doesn't matter, like nobody started knowing everything. So go and ask questions. You are never a fool of yourself. The other way around, maybe they'll laugh at you, but just because you are like shaking because of asking a simple question, just go and ask it. There's a lot of good people out there, especially the ones that are in this call, that are willing to help you, to learn with you, because QA is a world that is expanding. From my experience, I found developers that ended up like spending a couple of months developing UI automated tests, just because it's cool. It's a new skill that you can learn, and seeing things around moving, it's kind of pretty awesome. Yeah, it's fun to learn. Other than that, I suggest learning some non-functional testing, such as performance testing. I found that this is a skill that not many people have, and it's always a requirement to do some performance testing. Your system can be really pretty, but if you can't have like 5 people logged in, it has no use for anyone. So that's a skill. It's not that hard. I think I mentioned this before when I talked about QA ops. It's a new skill, something that you can learn. You can think about how to test and break things in the future in a functional world. But learn performance testing. It's something that people always appreciate when you raise your hand and say, okay, I know how to use K6 or JMeter or something like that. Also learn Docker and Kubernetes. You don't have to be an expert in DevOps, but man, when I started learning Docker, I started like figuring out what's a service, like what a real service does, how they interact with each other. So you kind of start understanding the role of everyone involved in the project. And it's, as I said before, the QA ops is a trend that is only getting stronger. And I think that might be a requirement for landing a QA job in the future. And also it's really cool. Like when you make your first deployment, kind of, I can't believe that I have just done this. And my last would be embrace AI. It doesn't matter how much you use it, but use it. For example, the first time I use it mostly for reverse engineering things. I remember the first time I had to intercept a network request and create a class in my automation framework, doesn't matter. And I copy pasted the request that I saw in the developer tools and asked, like, give me a simple interface that handles this code. And it appeared on my screen. It was crazy. Like, I didn't have to think about anything. It was just boilerplate code that it could take me, I don't know, 30 minutes to do it. And it was pretty boring. And this was like 2 minutes. Everything was working. So embrace AI for simple and repetitive tasks. Be subscribed to a blog just to be aware of what's going on all the time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Diego. You have all been amazing. I just loved hearing you talk. I love the passion that you put into it. You all have different but similar angles. We talked a lot about trends. We talked a lot about AI, how to understand it, leverage it, and understand what's going to enable in the future. We talked about leadership. We talked about getting the fundamentals right so that you can do everything else. We talk about specifics, books, frameworks, etc. I think this was a great episode, and I want to thank you again for being here, and I hope we can do this sometime again in the future.